anti-Semitism is not, just another case of racism. Anti-Semitism is not a form of racism. Racism is a form of anti-Semitism. It's the other way around. One thing I've come to realize is a question that determines how we understand everything else in our lives is the question of what is the basis for the sanctity of the other human being. When God gave the Torah, God gave not just the words, but the silences between the words. If there's something that binds humanity together, it's the silence of all tongues. The evil is not just in those bad guys out there, it's in me as well. Each of us teaches by how we live. The question is, what sort of teachers are we going to be? What are we going to teach? There's nothing more mystical than what is most mundane.
The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality?
Welcome to the Jew Function. I'm Leo.
Hello, everyone. I'm Seth.
And
unfortunately, we still have a job.
We still have a job. We're going to do this very quick because we have a great guest, and I've been dying to talk to him again ever since the first time I met him. We've done an interview together. I was sort of moderating a conversation between him and Dr. Michael Lightman, and you can find it on our channels. It's part of the Honest Conversations series, and it was years ago, like way before everything exploded, and already it felt like, oh, this is someone who gets it, and is not even Jewish. Like he wasn't born Jewish. Let's put it this way. We know that when we say a Jew, we don't really mean necessarily someone who was born to a Jewish mother. We talk about something a little deeper here, and
a lot deeper.
Okay, I was trying to, yes, a certain desire that is
of
not
the soul.
Of the soul that is not shared by everyone. At least it doesn't exist in everyone on the same level. Okay, it exists in everyone, I imagine, but not as close to the surface as it is with others. And with this guy, it was really strong. It was really interesting because he came to many of the same conclusions that we are working with, but he did it kind of his own way, through studying the sources, the Bible, the Talmud, all those things. And
by the way, that's the same way we came to it.
So no, okay. So if you're just dropping here for the first time, we came to it because we were very concerned about anti-Semitism before it was fashionable to be concerned about anti-Semitism.
From studying the sources, we said, this is coming. This is going to happen again.
Exactly. So we're looking at history and historic patterns. We're looking at words of Jewish sages, Kabbalists, and we're looking at modern day network science and the insights that came from that. Everything points to the same thing. There's a process, there's a pattern, there's some sort of a strange relationship that we haven't figured out between Jews and the rest of the world. And if we don't figure it out and we keep sort of acting as if everyone is just living life hunky-dory and just doing whatever they feel like doing, we're going to meet this pattern again and again. And indeed, on October 7th, again, Jews were met with this very fierce existential threat, which I don't want to say we predicted, but we certainly anticipated, with the amount of animosity and outright, it's almost like a civil war. So it's the opposite of the role that Jews should play in the world. So that's kind of our premise, and I want to, without further ado, I want to invite our guest. He's a distinguished, I don't know if his title is distinguished, but he is a distinguished person just by his passion, his spirit. He's a professor, he's the Hillel A. Feinberg Distinguished Chair in Holocaust Studies, and also distinguished professor there for literature and history, and he's connecting from Dallas, I believe, Professor David Patterson.
Yes. Hi, Leo. Seth, thank you for
Thank
having
you,
me. Yes,
David, for
I'm in
joining us.
Dallas. I'm in Dallas now on, one of the war fronts, which is a college campus. So,
So,
Who
what's it like there? Maybe just give people a little bit.
well, it's similar to many dozens of other campuses. There are, well organized pro-Hamas, anti-Zionist demonstrations with, slogans like "Death to the Zionists," chants of Allahu Akbar, uh, "We are Hamas," and we have, many students. We have people who are not students from outside the campus. It's nationally, if not internationally, coordinated and funded, systematically organized. Students for Justice in Palestine, for example, is a national organization, and there are some professors who stand with them and join with them. Many people say, well, those students don't know anything. They don't know what they're saying. They don't know the river from the sea. They don't know what, Palestine will be free really means. Okay, maybe the 20-year-olds don't know much, but the professors know and the organizers know exactly what they're doing. This is not, anti-Semitism is not, just another case of racism. Anti-Semitism is not a form of racism. Racism is a form of anti-Semitism. It's the other way around. You have to adopt an anti-Judaic stance. In other words, you have to take a view that separates human from human in order to arrive at a racist outlook. Jewish teaching binds one human to another. I was, speaking earlier about the Hebrew word for human being, a ben Adam, child of Adam. And the sages teach that God begins with one and not with two, so that no one can say my side of the family is better than your side. Problem is, being part of a family brings obligations with it. Even when God forbid, it's necessary to go to war, to do violence to someone. In Jewish tradition, this is not viewed as a good thing or a glorious thing, something to be glorified. It's lamentable. When the Israelites went to war and when the temple stood, those who came back had to bring a sin offering to the temple. Because they had done some things that were not so good, right? Maybe perhaps necessary, but not good, not pleasing to God. One way to recognize evil is just look where evil, where violence, where murder, where spilling blood is glorified. As in the case of Ahmed Yassin, founder of Hamas, who said killing Israelis and killing Jews. He didn't distinguish between Israelis, Jews, and Zionists, right? They're all the same.
One group, yeah.
It's just one. And he says it's killing Jews is an act of devotion. Haj Amin al-Husseini, the Nazi war criminal, preached this long before, that he who kills a Jew has a guaranteed place in paradise. They pray as they kill, Allahu Akbar, right? The IDF in Gaza is not praising God as they have to carry out their operations. They would rather not have to do that, right?
So is it because our teaching is better, because we're better people just by birth? We lucked out that, is it just be luck? Is because let's say like this, a lot. I think it's pretty clear that a lot of people are just a piece of hardware that some software is installed on them, And yeah, remember in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, I think it is, they had to like pull the thing off, but like put some other rock there so that
Yeah.
it was like a George Floyd image and then like the Palestinian flag, like right away, just like switch the thing. So like I'm trying to be, make it a little light, but my point is that there's a lot of the population. People are just a piece of hardware. You install some soft, tell them that this is what you like today, like the same way today you buy McDonald's, tomorrow you like this song, today you fight for this. That's the majority, but at the root, these thought leaders, right? The ones you're talking about here, the ones that are disseminating the information to the masses. So what's the difference between them and us? Is it just we're better? Is it just we by luck we received, or not? Let's not even say better. Let's just say different. By luck, we received a tradition and a feeling in us that we sanctify life, and for whatever reason, by luck or other, they received inside of them that they sanctified death.
By luck. No, nothing is by luck. Nothing. It's not, at least from a Jewish point of view.
I don't know what a better word is, but you understand what I'm saying. By somehow, without getting into, a whole thing of how we arrived at it, by somehow through Abraham, through, this, they got here and we went through our whole thing and ended up here.
Well, okay. Now,
in other words, Professor, what's happening here? What's the big play as the way you see it, and maybe you can couch it in just speaking a tiny bit about what your area of expertise is, because people don't know. We know each other. You've actually been. I took one lesson that you gave when I studied the new anti-Semitism course a couple of years back, but people don't really know what you're doing. We haven't done a terribly good job at covering everything. So maybe you can give a little bit of that, because I think that story is interesting, and then you can circle back to Seth's power question.
Yes. My areas of study, in addition to Jewish texts and teachings and traditions, is Holocaust studies and anti-Semitism. I just finished writing a book called Anti-Semitism Morally Required in the Wake of 10/7. So that's with the publisher. The book that immediately preceded that I wrote was called Judaism, Anti-Semitism, and the Holocaust, Making the Connections. So those are the things I work on. I just completed teaching a graduate seminar on anti-Semitism, go throughout its history and into our own time.
And I should say to viewers, and the book that I knew you through, Anti-Semitism and Its Metaphysical Origins, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you've been at it, even though you were not particularly Jewish when you started, right?
I've been at it, yes, for a long time. And I've written a few books and a few articles and done a lot of teaching. But one thing I've come to realize is a question that determines how we understand everything else in our lives is the question of what is the basis for the sanctity of the other human being? How do we understand what makes the other human being holy or important or worthy? And how we answer that, as I said, shapes how we view everything else: God, humanity, world, everything else. In some traditions, the dearness of the other human being is rooted on the matter of whether the other human being is a believer or not. Creed-based traditions, like traditional Christianity, traditional Islam, are about belief. Whoever believes shall not perish but have everlasting life.
In other words, conditional. It's conditional love. There's, I will love you or like you if, right, certain conditions are met.
If I hesitate to put it this way, but if you fall in line, then you're a good guy.
Right. So it's not even love. It's just like, I will not kill you if you meet these criteria.
It's It's obedience, it's acquiescence. And it's about not questioning. Jewish tradition does not understand the dearness of another to rest upon whatever somebody might believe. Right? It's in many ways belief is irrelevant to that. And you know, when I was going through the process of converting to Judaism, one of the first things the rabbi said to me, "So you don't have to be a Jew to have a place with God. You can follow the tradition you're born into. God is not interested in what we believe. God is interested in, you know, the questions put to Cain: where is your brother, and what have you done? What have you done?" That's who we are, and you know, we testify to the holiness of the other person with our hands, not with our mouth.
David, I keep coming back to this question. Like, I know I have my answer, but I want through these conversations to arrive at something that, because it's, you know, you could use marketing and PR to get people to believe almost anything. But I'm interested in understanding, can we point to something based in measurable reality? Like, we have our opinion, right? They like the Yankees and they like the Red Sox, right? So is there one that's better? I guess it depends on if you're from New York or Boston, right? We have our point of view that sanctity of the human life, what you do for the other matters, and someone else has another view that we need to kill the Jews. That's what God wants. Is there anything that we can point to that says that one of these is a better option, or that says that one of these is, without even like, that one of these is more in line with the purpose of creation? One of these is more in line with you follow what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
otherwise it's just different opinions. And we happen to have this one and they happen to have that one.
Yeah. And on a personal level also, Professor, how come you even came to it? Because this is rare. Most people don't ask that question, as you opened with, you know, like, oh, the other, you know, what's the relationship with the other? Like, you know, so where did it,
It's,
you know?
well, yes. Whenever I'm trying to figure something out, what does this mean? What does that mean? What's good? What's not good? My default is to go to the Torah and the Hebrew language. That's where I go. God pronounces each day of creation, well, except the second day for various reasons, to be good. Sixth day, tov me'od, very good, good and more. In the next chapter, we see the phrase lo tov, not good. What is not good? It's not good for the human being to be alone. Even the human being who has the company of God, he's hanging out with God. Why not? I mean, I think of course, you know, there are many commentaries on this, but one reason is that without the human to human relation, we have no relation to God. We have no higher relation. We have no meaning. We have no meaning, no substance. We are just like a cog in some
But
machine.
we don't, right? But Al Husseini does, it seems, right? And Hussein Yaku does, and Ahmed Hussein does, right?
Yeah, but they're wrong.
All right. So this is the crux of the matter. This is the crux of the matter.
No, they're wrong, not just because you know, I have a different opinion. In fact, sometimes I can see, and I know Jews and others who say, I wish I were wrong. In other words, if I'm right, then I have an infinite responsibility to my fellow human being that I can never meet because it's infinite. In fact, it increases as in the measure that the debt is paid. With each response, I grow more responsible. It's never enough. It's never enough. It's overwhelming. My accounts are never settled. in these creed-based traditions and in modern ideologies, communism, socialism, Marxism, we have a guarantee of settling the accounts. We have the fixed formula and the ready answer. The Jews are known for their questioning. God, El, God as El, is in the She'elah, in the midst of the question. We're known for the machloket, for dispute. We are encouraged to argue, to question. Rabban Gamliel, the great sage, first century, would begin his classes saying, ask, and would end by saying, go and ask further. In these ideologies that bring the fixed formula and ready answer, and the creeds, the theologies, it's don't ask. And when I talk about the accent on questioning and challenging in Jewish tradition with my students who don't come from that tradition, they're very surprised to hear that. So you can see how Jewishness, if that's what Jewishness is, would be threatening to a totalitarian way of thinking. Jihadism is totalitarian, as communism is totalitarian, Nazism. The Jews are saying, hey, wait a minute. Even questioning God, right?
I don't think anyone else is doing what we're doing. And yeah, and that's exactly it. Nobody can comprehend what we're talking about. Who would even say that anti-Semites have anything valuable to say without saying we're anti-Semitic or we're self-hating Jews? But there's something that everybody's missing in this whole picture. And the reason why the solution is so close is because we're not waiting for anyone else to change. We're not waiting for the laws to be enacted. We're not waiting for a new politician to get elected. The answer is way closer than everybody thinks.
Like us, hit the bell thing on the YouTube so you can get a notification when a new episode is up. Well, this is the Jew function, and let's get back to our guest.
The Jews are saying, hey, wait a minute. Even questioning God, right? Abraham's
I'm
first.
with,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm with you, but I want to help our viewers get to a point where it's because it feels right, and there's people who will resonate and to us if that okay, it's not like just believe you're going to get 72 virgins, or just believe in Jehovah and you go to heaven, or just believe this and that's all you need to do, right? So I see you're making a clear distinction. The Jew is always questioning. He doesn't even need to believe. It says other, and also valuing life, right? But for our viewers, is there some foundation? Can we go even deeper and point to some foundation that this sits on something? You said I go back to the Torah. Someone else goes back to the Bhagavad Gita. Someone else goes back to the Quran. Someone else goes back to whatever, right? There's thousands of religions out there. Is there something in all this that's so fundamental to what we're all doing here in this life?
Yes. What's in all of this is the white fire, so to say. The Torah is black fire on white fire. When God gave the Torah, God gave not just the words, but the silences between the words. If there's something that binds humanity together, it's the silence of all tongues. It's the white fire that the words are imposed upon, that the black fire of the words is on, whether it's whatever the holy text might be. Because there's a silence, we are summoned in order to receive the word to also sound the depths of the silence. What is being left unsaid? What is between the lines, between the letters? What is in the margins? If the Holy One, in many traditions that have a sense of the Holy One is the ineffable one, right? The nameless one, ultimately, Ein Sof, ultimately. And different traditions talk about God in very different ways. I mean, many people like to think, well, we all worship the same God. That might, on some ultimate mystical level, that might be the case, but we certainly don't talk about God in the same way. We do not. And I also, when I bring this up with my students and colleagues, I also say, don't be afraid of difference. Don't be afraid of differing. Let our differences lead us to listen more carefully. Why would someone who is very intelligent think this? And in some cases, gosh, do I want to say this? There is such a thing as evil, in my view. I don't like to say it. I never wanted to think it. I always resisted it. But the more I study things like Nazis and Islamic jihadists, the more unavoidable to me is this conclusion
Okay,
that
so
there is such a thing as evil.
so what would it be doing there? What in this whole network? Okay, so it is. So what's the purpose does it solve? Or what purpose does it serve for us, for people who want love, for people who are who want to connect everyone and who want a good life, not only for us. We feel that what we're doing is for the purpose for all humanity. What role would that evil play in all of that?
And by the way, just so you feel comfortable, I think all of our last few guests said exactly the same thing. No, there is evil. There is evil because, well, you can't have one without the other, first of all, they said. But yeah, because because humans, we all distinguish everything relatively, right? Cold from hot, pressure from vacuum, up from down, etc. There is no absolute sensation of anything for us. Maybe for a higher, right, in a higher dimension, but for
Yeah.
us, we're wrapped in relativity. So just it's a fact of life. It's a fact of nature. Plus, there's all those great things that happen when you actually combine, when you're able to actually bring two opposites in certain ways. When they just go against each other, that's a short circuit. But when you manage to bring them together in a good way, right? You get productivity.
He who makes peace in heaven, make peace down here. Like you make the opposites exist.
Well, I was thinking a light bulb, but yeah, that too. Yeah. I was thinking just plus and minus, right? Yeah, I mean that's the essence of all work. Two opposites,
Well,
right? So
yeah.
yeah, so
What is
chew
different
on
is not
that. Yeah.
what is different is not necessarily opposite. I mean, the parable of the 7 blind men and the elephant.
Yeah.
No, I
They're
don't know that
trying to
one.
figure out what an elephant looks like.
And each one says
It's
yeah.
like a
It's
trunk of a tree.
Yeah.
It's like a wall. It's like a snake.
snake, yeah.
They're different, but they're not opposites.
Right. We're talking about opposites. We are talking because you said objective evil has to have an objective good against it. It doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Those are opposites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know if evil is necessary to goodness. I'm not sure of that.
Well, when you read, as you think about it, I'll throw another thing at you. You can handle it. When you read the book of Job, it says clearly, God says, "I've created the evil inclination. I created evil. I created something incomplete, uncorrected." If you go deeper into the text, right? They say, why? So you can now, from working on correcting it, you come to know me. By doing this correction work here with other people, as you said, you get to know what is the creator, what is good, what is not good. All of that will come to you from, right? You come to a child, you bring him a broken puzzle, he has to put it together. That's how he learns, right? It's not fun to just say, look, here's a complete puzzle. Like, all right, so it's a simplification, but
No, it's not a simplification. It's very good. I mean, goodness has to have something it overcomes.
An ultimate goodness.
Yes, but there is, I mean, we don't choose what is good. The goodness chooses us. We don't choose goodness. It's because we've been chosen by the good that we now have to make a choice, and that it matters how we choose. And it's within us. It's very nigh unto thee to do it, right? but as the teachings on the evil inclination, it's not just it's something we have to suppress or overcome or destroy. It's something we have to redirect as well. We should love B'kol levavcha with two spades, with both sides. So it's, yes, there is a kind of dialectic for sure at work there. But some things can't be negotiated. Some people can't be negotiated with. I'm thinking of, the true believers among Nazis and among jihadists. I hate to say it, but at least in this world, with what we have at our disposal, sometimes we have to get violent. It's a horrible thing to say. It's a horrible thing to say.
That's also true, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. You remember Golda, and it's a remark attributed to Golda Meir after the October War, 73. We can forgive you for attacking us, even for killing our children, but we will never forgive you for making our children kill your children. The Jews do not glorify in the necessity of using violence to defend themselves. It is not something we celebrate. We celebrate life. But what does it mean? I put before you this day life and death, good and evil, so choose life. What does it mean to choose life? It doesn't mean choose to stay alive necessarily. It means sometimes choosing life entails dying for someone else. Okay. Life, in order to choose life, we have to have something to die for, someone to die for, someone to embrace. The soul draws its breath from the between space of one person and another, each embracing the other. The soul, the neshama, draws its neshima, right? The word for soul, word for breath are connected. It's relational. Judaism, what is the most fundamental teaching of Judaism? Is Bereshit bara. Not even bara Elokim. Bereshit bara. Bereshit, the first principle, most important thing is bara, created. And Nachmanides points out bara also is a cognative brit, covenant. In the beginning, there's a movement into a covenantal relation, without which there is no good, there is no evil, there is no meaning and no meaninglessness. The horror of the modern age is that there is no evil and no good. You remember Heart of Darkness, the novel by Joseph Conrad, the movie Apocalypse Now, based on it. Kurtz, who was a renegade, took off, became kind of a god unto himself. He dies uttering the words, the horror, the horror. The novel's published in 1900. The horror is not that people are capable of so much evil, it's that there is no evil. That's the horror, and therefore no good. There's simply what is.
Which is what, if there's no evil, then there's no good. And if there is evil and the revelation of the evil, then there has to also be the revelation of the good.
Agree. So, and it's not just, it's a good that implicates me, that calls out to me, where are you?
And that's what we're seeing on the left. Hold on, Sid, this is important, because that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing on the left, on the progressive side, right? There is no evil. There's points of view. Yes. There's, right, all of that stuff, which
that's right.
Which sounds insane. Now, some people, firmly believe it. I think not terrible people. Maybe you could say uneducated. You could say they didn't like how, whatever the reason is. Some people it resonates with them for some reason. And now we say it resonates. And I'm curious to know what you think. We say it resonates with them because in their heart of hearts, they do yearn for a place where they can belong no matter what, and they can, and everything
Right.
is sort of kind of,
Love me no matter what I say,
yeah,
no matter who I am, no matter.
but it's a juvenile way of looking at things, of not,
Yes.
not committing to good and bad, to responsibility, as you said, to the all those things. It's more like, just me, this is how I see the world, please see it too, please see it also like that, rather than, no, this is the world, and it's, it's has bad and good, has terrible stuff and good stuff, and I have to make a choice, and it's not always easy, right? As you said, it's work. So
It is work, but that you see, no, you're absolutely right. And these are very important points about, and it tells us how people get seduced by this. They get seduced by uh, being handed the righteousness that their soul hungers for, or the meaning that their soul hungers for. The soul needs meaning the way the body needs bread. So they want to be part of something. They want to have a sense of mission or cause, be part of a cause. But they seek that in such a way that it relieves them of all responsibility, right? To put this differently, it gets to be about identity politics, so to say. It's not. It's my, race, class, gender, my wokeness that legitimizes what I'm doing, and not my pursuit of truth or goodness or anything else. I'm already good. I feel good. To be good is to feel good about yourself.
exactly.
But whereas people who are good often don't feel good about themselves.
Exactly. It's a
And
it's it's exactly, this is a matter of awareness. This is exactly the, we have, what we study is, they said the difference between a developed person and an undeveloped person is the relation, as you said, to the other, how much I feel, how good I'm able to be relative to another. So the least developed, it's like an animal. There's no shame, there's no feeling of,
right.
right? I just, when someone is like reduced to level of animal, as we say, they lose the shame, right? They'll eat from the garbage, they'll steal, they'll do whatever. As you lift a person, they start to, okay, what does the other think of me? How do I relate to them? How do they relate to me? So, and the highest degree is someone who only considers the others before his own self. You could say that's like the,
Yeah.
but we're
Exotic.
far from it. It seems like we're going the opposite direction right now. So,
Let me take that. Oh, sorry, David. Go ahead.
yeah, no, no,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I
Go
wanted
ahead.
to change the direction a little bit, because there's also this Jewish quality um, that it all kind of comes out of there also. Like whatever is happening later also originated in that Jewish thing. For example, like Sinwar, this Hamas leader, right, had
Yeah.
a brain tumor, and then Israeli doctors saved his life, and then he
Yeah.
went on to organize or help organize October 7th, right? Or Israelis develop the cell phone, and some Jew develops Instagram and Facebook, and then these things are used in order to organize against Jews and against Israel. And I would say
Mhm.
that probably, if we did a lot more research, we could probably find that almost everything that's used against us came from us somehow. And in light of that, what can come out of us that will lead to good? That, for example, let's say like whatever comes out of us eventually will be used by the whole world, whether they use it to kill us or whether it's used for something else. It all kind of comes out of this Jewish pot, or this even if we don't even name it Jewish, this connection to Yud K Vav K or whatever it is, this this small group of people that somehow has been with us since the dawn of civilization, through all the empires that went up and down. That group was there, and whatever comes out of there goes out into the world and affects the whole world. So what can come out of there that can produce good fruits in the world?
Boy, that is a wonderful question. Yes, the Jews, throughout history, at least for much of the world, sort of the epicenter of the shock waves that go out over the globe, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I'm thinking, well, for most of Jewish,
Marxism. I mean, it's like everywhere you go, it's
yeah, no, but for most of Jewish history, most Jews have been literate. Most Jews have been able to read and write for most of Jewish history. That already puts us in a position of being invited into the courts of the kings to help them with, they're figuring out what they're doing. So the engagement with the book has an impact on all of humanity. It reminds me of, the teaching in the Talmud that says our words and thoughts and deeds create angels, and they go into the world and do their work for good or for ill. So, but the question is, Seth, you raise a deeper question, Seth. How do I know I'm creating good angels? What if the angels I create go bad?
not what if. It seems to be that
they,
that's what's happening.
They do. I think part of it is that each human being, whether whatever the angels are doing to have to influence us, each of us has agency. Our humanity lies in our responsibility. As we relieve others of their responsibility and infantilize them, we dehumanize them. You see this very often, especially, like Hamas. What else could they do? They were backed into a corner. They couldn't have reacted any other way. I hear that often. So each human also has agency, but at least we can give people the opportunity to do some good with what we create. But even still, the story of Saul, who spared the life of the king of the Amalekites long enough for the king to produce a progeny from which Haman would come, right? So, I mean, at least one.
And he was told to kill him.
He was told to kill him. Samuel said, "You got to kill this guy." Samuel himself killed him, right? So, and one interpretation is that Saul had compassion. So even a seemingly good thing, a good emotion or a good attitude, can have bad results, as you point out. But anything that can be used for good can be used for evil.
I think this is the problem of the world. I think that, for example, like people don't recognize the Trump in themselves. Let's just use the Trump derangement syndrome as an example, right? Like,
okay,
instead of saying like I recognize that that I'm not white as snow. I'm not pure, right? Everything is always like they're the bad ones. Right, the Jews, the this, the that, instead of saying all of this can exist in me as well, I'm taking stock of myself, because we have to, like, he didn't want to kill him because whatever, he had a conscience, he was being compassionate or whatever. And all day long, we want people to like us. We want to do the right thing, but life requires sometimes these very difficult decisions, and requires us to each come to these moments. Otherwise, if we don't, we create monsters. Like, you see it today with the way that some parents parent their kids today. They don't want to ever say no to the kid, and it's creating little monsters, right? Because they think, I know how I was treated and I didn't like this, and I want to just give my kid love. But without giving the kid boundaries, without saying no, sometimes
frustration, you raise a terrible kid. Without frustration, you raise a terrible kid, basically.
Well, yes, where there's goodness, there's a principle of limitation at work.
Right.
With the thou shalt, there's a thou shalt not. In fact, we have more thou shalt nots than thou shalts, right? More negative.
Well, we see it in nature. I mean, if you just eat sugar, you die. It's like you can't have just too much of
Yes,
sweeping.
but
It's like the examples are in front of us. I feel like so simple yet so profound, and
yeah, oh, they are all around us. There's nothing more mystical than what is most mundane. It's
exactly.
all around us.
Jew function is really it's a desperate, I guess, desperate attempt to change something about the rise in anti-Semitism that doesn't seem to go away. And looking at history usually ends with something terrible before we reach relative quiet again. But we don't want to reach something terrible. We want to do it now. So that's why we're doing this podcast. And if you like this, also consider leaving a small contribution on our Patreon channel. Right, we both have day jobs, by the way, so we're not hoping to make money from this. We're hoping to see some change of heart.
Any funds are used to get this out there, to get this to people. We consider this the same way you go out every day to get money to feed your family, put a roof over your head. This is also critically important to our future, to our safety, to a good world, not only for Jews, but for everyone.
Well, this is the Jew function, and let's get back to our guest.
I translated the Black Book of Russian Jewry, which is, firsthand accounts of what Nazis did in the East, right? The killing units. And I came to the realization that what the Nazis did was not unimaginable. It was everything imaginable. If they could imagine it, they would do it. They had no limiting principle to curb their actions. During the Crusades, there were Christians who said, wait, we're going too far. And you could remain a Christian and object. You can't remain a Nazi and say we're going too far. There's no going too far.
Also as a jihadist. Also as a jihadist. You can't really...
Yeah. Exactly. There's no going too far. The evil entails the erasure of every limiting principle. The only thing that's left is the will and the imagination.
So where does it take us? I mean, ultimately, I think we've painted a picture from just some of those, like looking at it from different perspectives. There is an issue here. Clearly, someone who's already on the other side, let's put it this way, just for lack of a better classification system, it's hard. They're not going to sit and listen to our show. They're not going to, maybe they'll be struck with a moment of clarity. Maybe they'll their own egoistic kind of desires will pop up and they'll question what's happening, because it really requires a certain good size ego, a good set of desires. It can just be, it's part of it in a way, if you look at it. At least that's how we study it, and a person is really an evolution of desires on top of desires for more pleasure at minimum pain. That's like the formula that governs everything. And so the highest the way we see the world, the people in the highest positions are the biggest egoists. We are at the point that we feel that we have to start correcting that. Like nature is now demanding us. The system is sort of showed us, okay, this time to limit that. That was a good driving force, but now it's time to kind of start reaching out, start making these correcting measures. Again, it was designed this way for a reason. And our sages talk about it. They talk about Creator wants to give you all the good. You need to have the biggest vessel to receive it,
yes.
Right? So, have the biggest, big eyes, big mouth, big belly, so you can receive everything. But if you just receive it like that, if you just take it all in, you just become obese, right? It's like,
Right.
there has to be a certain relation to the other, why you're receiving it. And that's kind of at the heart of what we're studying. Now, I don't expect the average person to make these calculations. It doesn't happen automatically. No. But the question is, what can be done? Especially for people who are seeing this and sort of identify with some of the things that they're hearing, and they go, what's happening? Because mostly what I hear from people that I know, oh, it's terrible. Things are terrible. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. And
they are confused.
Yeah, I'm talking about the good kind, the
Yeah,
relatively
yeah,
good
yeah,
kind, you know,
yeah.
the ones who feel something is terribly wrong. So,
It,
what do you think in your mind? How do you see this playing out?
well,
What do we have to do here?
in my experience, of course, I live with mostly with graduate students. I have students, I have colleagues, I have many. I'm involved in many areas in Jewish community and outside beyond the Jewish community. So I have a lot of people are confused. They're scared. They turn to me if not for an explanation, just to talk. They need someone to talk to, and those people can be helped or can be directed. They can be led to consider and reconsider some things. I've had students who say to me, "You helped me to rethink this whole thing about the Zionists and colonialists and apartheid." I mean, those are you might think it's easy to debunk all that, but it's not always that easy in the minds of some, right? So there are those, and I would say, including ourselves, those who can listen can learn. If you listen a little, you'll hear a lot. Um, the evil is not just in those bad guys out there; it's in me as well. That in my mind, anti-Semitism is not we versus they. It's about me, and the anti-Semitism I have to deal with first is what lurks in me. I think the
What is
root
the
of
anti-Semitism in me, for example? What am I against? When I discover it in myself, what is it that I'm against inside of myself?
ooh, Seth, that's the question. What is the anti-Semite anti anyway? What am I against? I'm against God. The original temptation is you will be like God. Not like the God of Abraham, who was Erech Apim of Hesed, who is long suffering, full of kindness, and so on. No, I want to be the God who gets his way, who is not responsible to anyone for anything, who is powerful, and so on.
Selfish
I
God.
want to the selfish God, the God that knowledge promises us to be, right?
So we're each anti-Semitic. If the Semite, meaning there's like a godly part, and we're all kind of fighting against that even within ourselves.
Yeah, I think so. There's the evil, the good and the evil inclinations that are in a tension with each other. There's a story about that I heard from Cherokee Indian tradition, where the grandfather is telling his
Yeah.
grandson, there are two wolves inside of us, inside of you, a hungry, they're both hungry and they're fighting. There's a good wolf and a bad wolf. And his grandson says, which one's going to win? The grandfather, the one you feed.
Mhm.
Uh, that's it. So if
Beautiful.
there's a good wolf in there somewhere, and I'd like to think everyone, but not you can't always appeal to the good wolf inside somebody. I mean, some are too far gone. Like you said, they're way over to the other side, and you have to defend yourself from those people.
So,
And when
so
they say I'm going to kill you, believe them. Believe them.
let's say the ones who said they're going to kill us, we have, thank God, great soldiers, and we'll pray for them. Like, but here, what we talked about here is you mentioned the other many times. You also said that there's the good, that inside of each of us we have, not you, you're quoting the sources, but we have this good and evil. So then it comes down to helping each other to feed the good in each other, to
Yes.
helping to creating some kind of society, some kind of network, some kind of whatever it is, a minyan, and then kahal, and then whatever it is that then eventually olam, from maybe the smallest unit to to bigger and bigger units, where we are each helping each other to always feed the good and defeat the anti-Semitism. This is an incredible concept that's inside of me, meaning I'm not standing here protesting against a Jew, but we all, if we just explore it, can find inside of ourselves this
Yes,
evil inclination, right?
yes. And it requires community. A community, it requires an edah. Edah is community. Edah is also testimony. Learning is done in community. It's not good for us to be alone. We have the time and the life that we have is the time and the life we have for someone else, for a community. And a community is the opposite of a crowd. Where there's community, there are those of us in the community have some connection to a higher relation, and our human to human relation is expressive of the higher relation. It's in the light of a higher relation.
You could say, since you like to quote Hebrew, you could say the difference between a crowd, kahal, and community, keilah, is the yud hey, is the creator added in it, right?
Whoa.
I just,
Nice one, Spiegler.
No, I was,
Hey,
since
Ravi Spiegler
I love it.
says that the difference between
I'm going to use that.
Okay. It's all yours. I'll send you an address for the royalties. You can send them.
Well, this is the difference between Galut and Geula.
It's the Aleph.
There's an Aleph.
Exactly.
It's the Aleph. And the Aleph is
see,
Yud, Vav, Yud. It's
yeah.
26, right?
That's exactly. I mean, we keep coming back to it. In our shows when we talk to people, and we talk to secular people, liberals, people we talk to non-Jews, but it seems like everyone has this point in them that was yearning to receive, or that received at one point this Torah. It's not like some book, something. It's a Torah from like the word instruction or light, depending how you move it around, right?
Yeah.
And all that stuff. It's an instruction. It's really like, look, this is the way towards good, and the whole story of how the creator supposedly went down and tried to give it to all the other savage nations, and nobody wanted it, right? And then
Right.
and
Yeah.
you can treat it. It could be like a little fable, like a little kid's tale, or it could be an allegory, or it could be this also internal moment, as you said, when you're given an opportunity. Look, you can choose this and go in that direction, or you can choose that, and ultimately it comes down to those choices.
Yes.
And the question to you, I guess, my question is, how do we help people make that choice? Because eventually what I'm hearing is that it comes down to what's happening inside of you, each individual, with the help of the community, right? How do we help more people make that choice? Because it seems like we're outnumbered. If you really look at it's not going to be a numbers game. It's got to be a qualitative shift. How do we make that? How do we make that shift, that internal shift?
It's in my experience, it's one at a time. Having time for someone here and now. I know we've all met people, maybe tzaddikim, if we're blessed enough, where when you're with him or her, you have the sense you're the most important person in the universe. I had this with Rabbi Steinsaltz, and I went to Elie Wiesel. You're the most important one. So and being made to feel so important in the eyes of someone else leads you to think that you have something important to do. You can have an impact. And back to the creating angels that go into the world, the scope of our impact exceeds our field of vision. There's no minor act of kindness or help, because it's always bigger than you think. It's always bigger than you think. So we are not helpless. We are not helpless. You might think you're helpless, but you have to act like you're not. Otherwise, you are. So it requires a lot of faith. It's like teaching. teachers have to have a lot of faith because they usually don't see the results of their efforts. You know, the seeds that they plant often sprout long time after they're with their students. Each of us is a teacher. Each of us is a more. A more is a hore, a parent, like a father to someone. The other human being is a child entrusted to my care. And of course, another root is Torah, right? Another cognate is Torah, the teaching. Each of us teaches by how we live. The question is, what sort of teachers are we going to be? What are we going to teach? We can do it. We have a great impact. You know, it's a luxury to say, well, there's nothing I can do about it. That lets me off the hook, right? I'm on the hook. We're on the hook. These podcasts that you two are doing have a far greater impact than you can imagine. They really do. They do. You're creating angels, so to say. So we have to remain with our in a listening mode. You know, God is putting to each of us all the time the first question, Ayeka, where are you? And it's the Ayeka has a root Echa, which is a cry of anguish. How could you? God himself is imperiled. God himself is crying out to us. God himself is at stake. Sometimes the Almighty One, El Shaddai, seems like a helpless infant. And if we don't love him and nurture him and care for him, he will die. Let's not let God die.
What I feel from you is all of those moments at home, like on the couch, on the bed, like at the desk, like all of those in the car, like all of those moments that those burning questions inside that led you to this. And I've been through my own version of all of those moments that lead, because now you're speaking very eloquently and all this, but it's not without 1,000 sleepless nights that led to all this.
Yeah.
And I feel all of that in what you're saying. I feel like you're like a warrior in some warriors on the battlefield. I feel in you this warrior for this. The question be, why did you convert, or why did you? I mean, I feel like you just put it all on the table. Why you did all this? It's some inner blessing, some inner calling, or something. I hope we can continue. I mean, we're rooting for you, and through you, what you're passing to all your students, and through your work. And please also consider us part of your kihila, consider us part of this circle, and we're going to help each other even when the Zoom ends, that we keep the helping build
Absolutely.
helping us each feed that good inclination inside of us towards good. I was going to ask some questions. We wrote down questions and things we wanted to ask you, but I just feel like everything's on the table already.
Yeah,
It's
done.
also
The heart is on the table.
The heart is on the table. It's a great blessing, great honor to sit and learn with you and learn from you, both of you. With God's help, maybe we'll talk again.
Well,
hope so.
We will. Professor, I put in the chat a quote from that line you mentioned in the beginning. I put a
Yes,
quote from the introduction to the study of the 10 Sefirot by Yehuda Ashlag, Baal Sulam. Item 3. Maybe you can read it out loud for us. That'd be nice. I think it's a nice little, cherry on top.
it is written in the Torah, see, I have set before you this day life and good, death and evil. This means that prior to the giving of the Torah, we had only death and evil before us. As our sages say, the wicked and their lives are called dead. since their death is better than their lives, as the pain and suffering they endure for their sustenance is many times greater than the little pleasure they feel in this life. However, now we've been granted Torah and commandments, and by keeping it, we are rewarded with real life, joyful and delightful to its owner, as it is written, taste and see that the Creator is good. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, friends.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, for being with us.
Thanks, David.
We are the Jew Function. We will continue to broadcast
Yes.
this with the help of Professor Patterson and everyone else that's been here. Follow us, share this far and wide, please. I think it's
Absolutely.
yeah, anyone who needs to hear this hears this.
Well,
and we'll
I have
see
some
you-
students.
Oh,
I have students who would be very interested.
very good. I like that. So, by all means, like, share. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify. Every episode we ever did is there as well. You don't have to,
Okay.
So you could just do that, and we have a lot of content in addition to that as well. So hopefully more and more people get to make that choice inside of them. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see
Okay.
you all.
Thank
next
you.
week.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Professor Patterson.
All blessed. Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
the best. Bye-bye.